So we asked the community, does anyone have a favorite app they use for practice? That's what we're going to talk about today. And also, of course, me and Hayes has some favorite apps to share with you. Here we go.
Hey there, music maker. I'm Hayes Griffin.
I'm Magnus Sellon.
And welcome to the Mandolin Secrets Podcast, a show where we take a deeper look at what's happening in the world of mandolin secrets. Each episode will tackle our question of the week, unpack the latest mandolin secrets lessons, and answer your questions about mandolin, guitar, and all things music. In this episode, we'll be discussing your favorite practice apps, and also how do you visualize scales on the mandolin and guitar. Magnus also has a new lesson release that he wants to share with us, and I've got a trick up my sleeve or two as well, so let's go ahead and dive in.
Yeah, but actually, Hayes, as we were logging in here today, getting all the tech ready, I did see like a glance of your room, and it seems like there's some new technology popping up here right behind you.
Absolutely, yes. I think if you're watching the video here, you can see over on my cajon, which is a great amp stand, by the way. I've got my my new Boss Katana amplifier. Yeah, it's also a great chair, you know.
Again, can you pronounce the name of this?
Yeah, cajon.
Cajon. We call it a cajon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Cajon, right? You know, cajon.
Probably have a cool. Yeah, that it works for many things in the studio. Well, actually, since this is a podcast, but there's also a video version. So for anyone listening, and right now, Hayes, we can't see your amp and the cajon because your image is a little bit cropped here. Or zoomed in or whatever, but that was exactly. And you told me a little bit about that new amp that you have, but I also know there's some new other technology that you are like playing around with. This modeler or what? How?
Yes, exactly. Amp modeling or profiling. Profiling is slightly different than modeling. Mm-hmm. But essentially, for all of you gearheads out there, I have decided to kind of move away from analog amplifiers because they're expensive to maintain. Tubes are really expensive these days to buy, and they're just sensitive. I had a 67 Fender Deluxe Reverb, which is a really nice old tube amplifier. Sounds great. But just I didn't like taking it to gigs anymore, and it's a one-trick pony. It can do that. It can do the one thing that it does really well. Yeah. But modeling and profiling have gotten so good these days. Companies have come up with really good algorithms to kind of replicate the sounds of these amplifiers. So the Boss Katana is a modeler, meaning that it uses digital technology to approximate the sound of some legendary amplifiers. But the other kind of rig that I'm using live is a Kemper Profiler. So what that one does is you can set up microphones on vintage amplifiers and take profiles of them by sending electronic impulses through the microphone and the amplifier, so it kind of reads the circuit path of the amplifier and replicates that.
Wow.
So my Kemper Profiler, I've got like all these settings. There's like, the Van Halen 1984 sound, and there's the the Tony Iommi Heaven and Hell Black Sabbath sound, and there's what I mean, like they've done all these kind of profiles. And the thing that sold me on this was that I plugged into the Kemper for the first time, dialed up a 67 Deluxe Reverb, and it sounded exactly like my tube amp. like almost nearly exactly like my, and I'm just like, why am I even messing with this stuff anymore,
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
So this profiling, is that even like is that sort of mimicking the whole? Mimic is maybe not the right word, but does it like how would I put it? Is it like the complete signal chain from guitar to amp? So it's kind of even mimic what they're pedal board or
Exactly. So, and the cool thing about the profiler is there's a section where you can manipulate the effects. You can either put them before the amplifier or after the amplifier in the signal chain of the profiler, you know, so you can kind of manipulate things that way. So it's pretty
cool.
It's neat. You know, it's like, as someone who grew up in like the like late 90s and early 2000s with like amplifier technology, the first digital amps that came out were kind of awful in a way. They didn't sound that good, but having this at your fingertips now, like I have every tone of every guitar player that I loved when I was a kid, just like right at my fingertips. So it's
that's
really
cool. I feel like we got listeners here now who would never go this road, you know? They are like pure vintage kind of
digital,
oriented.
No way, get it away from me.
You know? And then we of course have people who are very open to this and but I think it's, I mean, I think
I'll say this to keep my analog guys happy. Like, nothing really beats the feel and sound and vibe of a vintage tube amplifier. When you're sitting in the room with it, you flip the switch and the light turns on and the tubes warm up, and you know it's got this like, it's like listening to a record. There's like a process. To it, you know. But as far as functionality goes, no way, man. I'll leave those in the studio and take my Kemper to the gig.
I like it. I actually got a small tube amp back home, a Laney. I think it's a 30. Well, it's a small one, but
Laney's great.
Yeah, but I it's only collecting dust, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about it, maybe letting it go, and of course probably because I mean at the time when if I ever get that amplified gig, maybe I also would prefer something like modeling kind of thing. Or
True,
I remember I actually had this. You talk about shitty digital stuff. I had a Zoom pedal from, let's say, from 95 or something like that. I bought it like even second-handed in 1998, maybe 3-4 years old. And it had an expression pedal, so you can even do some wah-wah things with it. And it was really shitty, but still I remember and even recorded things with that one. And it did a job still, you know.
Oh, 100%. Dude, like the Weezer Blue album was recorded on a Line 6 pod, which is like, in my opinion, the shittiest of like the digital thing, you know, like back in the 90s. Yeah. But that's a legendary album, and the guitar tones are like legendary on that. So it's like, like you're saying, you know, if it serves the function and you can still express yourself in a meaningful way with the piece of gear, then it did the job, in my opinion. Yeah, it
did the job. Yeah. One thing that even comes to my mind. So this is not where we're supposing we were going, but I have never like told this story to anyone, but let's drop it here at Mandolin Secrets podcast number 29. Here it's coming. So this goes back to 1998 probably, and there was a TV show in Sweden. Like at this was the time when like cable TV was getting a thing here in Sweden, probably 10-20 years after United States, but up till that we only had like 3 channels on the TV, but it popped up like commercial TV in the 90s. There was a very popular TV channel specialized for teenagers, basically. It's called ZTV with a letter like Zeppelin. And they decided they're gonna have like a guitar competition on the show. You would win like a Flying V Gibson guitar. Yes, and there's like a legendary Swedish guitar player. Probably no one listening to this show knows about it, but his name is Conny Bloom. Very good, but he was he was what do you say, really hot at this moment, late 90s.
Yeah.
And he was the jury of the show also. And my friend, who couldn't play the guitar, he got in, because they were like, every day they were displaying, so if you want to be part of this, just ring this number and you can, and there were no like internet live stream shows or anything, so like this idea of participating in a TV show was really new, and so he was somehow intrigued by it. So he rang this number, and they put him on hold or in some way. But then they let him through. So like, okay, so, and Martin, my friend, so he's gonna be live in this show in about, like, you're on in 20 minutes. Just stay on the line, and he comes like running. We lived next door to each other, and he said, "Hey, you gotta go, bring your guitar and come here, because you're in the contest," sort of. and I was just, well, I grabbed my. I had a little small amp, my Zoom pedal board, and my Stratocaster. We moved into his living room, and like after 20 minutes, it was our turn, sort of. And I was doing my riffs using the Zoom pedal. The expression had this wah-wah effect. So I was doing some like funk rhythm kind of wah-wah things and that style. And yes, so, and then there were maybe 10 guitarists that evening, and me and my buddy Martin. It's actually Martin Karlsson that you met here in Sweden. Yeah.
You said Martin, I was like, is it that Martin?
It is that Martin.
That's even funnier.
Yeah. So, and we had to leave. We were going for a soccer training. I can't remember how this worked out, but so he said, "Well, sorry, but I will not be here when you're about to present the winner of today. So you have to phone my friend. And that is Mark. Or you also met Mark and Nick.
Yes.
Yeah.
The crew.
Yeah, the crew. So he left the number to Mark, so because he was going to be around. Me and Martin went like to the soccer training, and we even like programmed our video recorder to turn on, so we would tape, so we could see when we got home, we would play back to see what was this happening. And I can't remember how it did, but we got back from the soccer training, and to make this story a bit shorter, we won the competition.
Are you kidding me?
No. And this was like, and we were getting to the final round. That was there. So we were going to be back in 3 days. We're going to have the final round. We have 4 finalists being in the...
Yeah.
Sort of.
To duke it out for the flying.
Yeah, duke it out. And we were listening back to this video recorder, and they were phoning back, and oh, your friend Martin just won this guitar contest, but can you say something about Martin, Mark? How is your friend? And when he get this question, and he's almost getting a blackout, because he's like, oh, it's Magnus who's playing. Now she's asking about my friend Martin. So he was like, oh, my friend, oh, he's... and so it doesn't make much sense, but he's so confused from the situation. From a very simple question. What is he like, your friend Martin?
He cracked under the pressure, man.
So,
it's so
okay.
Good.
Sorry, but then on the final round, we're there. We're like on live. Martin is just holding the phone to my guitar. I'm doing some kind of guitar more like a blues kind of wah-wah thing again. Same style as I did last time. And this Connie Bloom is really impressed by my playing. But he says, but since this, I think this guitar is more like a heavy metal thing, and that's why we're gonna give it to the other person. I mean, who's playing this shred kind of metal thing or whatever. So I didn't want I was like, what is the second place in the Zeta TV guitar contest of 1998?
But should have been first from what it sounds like, you know?
Well, he the first time he was really, I mean, I'm really like, the wah-wah guitar is really my thing, you know, and the thing is, you know, anyone can play fast on a guitar, but now that's not that many players that can play with the feeling and the soul vibe like that. So the first time he was really impressed by my playing.
That's super awesome, man.
And we've been going 16 minutes of the podcast, and I'm trapped by the Zoom digital pedal.
I love it so much, dude. Well, I'm glad that a discussion of my gear could lead us to such a fruitful story about your previous life as an electric guitar player, you know?
Yeah. And
it's good, man.
It's good. But it's a fun thing, and of course, it's one of these stories that when I meet my old friends, we're always, do you remember when we were part of the guitar contest? That tape should be around somewhere, because
we gotta watch that this summer when I come to Sweden, dude. We gotta find that.
We gotta find it somewhere. So I don't know how to transition from this into my next thing, but for anyone out there, we ask the community, how do you visualize scales on the mandolin and guitar? Boxes, finger, patterns, etc. Any clever answers coming from the community?
Not too many, I wouldn't say clever answers, but the cool thing is that there were a number of different kind of approaches to it. I think most people, I would say, when I was reading through the comments, like in both the Facebook and the Mandolin Secrets group, use some kind of geometric shape or pattern or box, whatever you want to call it, to kind of visualize scales. Most of our guitar playing friends were like caged, right? Which is like the very common system for guitar players. And then everyone else was kind of, they didn't use the terminology that you use, but there were a few folks that were talking about the 4-finger mandolin method. So kind of like the box 1, box 3 type of thing. It seems like most people are on board for that, you know, especially since the mandolin is symmetrical tuning. That was brought up a few times, and how it was easy to visualize patterns that way.
And it's one thing that I want to add to it. It's not actually visualizing, but for scales, I can also recommend everyone to really train your ears so that we could hear all the scales. And the easiest way that I found to practice that habit is to like actually learn how to sing a scale. If I'm using, for example, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, ba da 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 da, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, so that we actually know the numbers, and la da 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 da, la da 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 da, like a natural minor, or we can do an harmonic minor, la da 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 da, so that so it's not so. And one very simple and good way to practice that is, as I'm doing now, you can actually pick one note on your instrument, then just try to sing out the scale. And it sounds maybe very easy and simple, but in my experience, it takes some practice to actually learn that.
But there's this kind of thing that I think both you and I have seen the benefits of when you practice this kind of ear thing away from the mandolin, and then you come back to the instrument. It's almost like your body just knows how to find that sound that's inside.
Yes.
I can't explain this.
No.
We need a neurologist or someone to talk about this, but
Yeah.
it develops a strong connection between the two, right? To do that stuff.
Exactly. I might actually experience that a lot right now. And I remember talking about it in the previous episode that I'm been learning some jazz vocabulary, Charlie Christian licks, and what I'm trying, because I can sort of play it. I've learned how to finger and play it, but I'm also trying to learn how to sing all those phrases, and that is more tricky for me. But when I'm sitting around and finding a way to sing it, it's much easier to play right after it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, and it's connected to how we visualize things. So we got the sound internalized, and then know how to see it on our fretboards.
Definitely.
And this people might think, well, I have no singing voice or anything, but that's not just singing it's only a way to try how well we can hear it in our heads in a way.
Yeah, it's not to be a good singer, right?
No.
That's not the purpose of this.
No.
Yeah, it's just to put pitch inside of your body.
Exactly. That's a good pitch.
And what's funny about that though is the more that you do this exercise, you become a better singer.
Yeah.
It just kind of happens that way.
Yeah. I want to play back a new lesson that I released is this jazz standard, I've Found a New Baby. With the origins from the 1920s. I think it was first published in 1926, if I don't remember wrong. And so many legendary recordings, Charlie Christian being one of them, Django Reinhardt, to mention a few. But I've made a mandolin version with playing backup on the octave mandolin and then putting the melody on the mandolin. So let's have a quick listen to it. I realized I have to actually upload this little file into my playback. So there we got it. Playing here, playing back, I've Found a New Baby.
1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
Yeah, I'm stopping it there, but
so good, man. I gotta say, that octave mandolin comping, that sounds like it sounds like a Macaferry guitar. It sounds like gypsy jazz to me. I love the tonal quality of that. It's perfect swing instrument.
Thanks. Yeah. And the way that I'm playing back the melody also, I'm doing some chord punches in there. Yeah. So actually when I recorded it, because it's funny you mentioned the sound qualities of the octave, I did also play another, like a mandolin backup, but I realized then then those chord punches in the melody sort of, they were interfering with the rhythm playing. But when I play the chords on the octave, it worked to play the melody part like that.
So it's like that separation of range maybe helps.
Probably, yes. Yeah.
That's cool, man. I love that. I think that's a new sound right there, you know? That's that's the way to go.
Yeah, and I've laid down the bass track there, like a MIDI bass. So also that one, I have a plan to record this as a performance video also. A little higher tempo. This is more like a teaching style. And I think there might be room for maybe some collab on this. Maybe you want to put some electric mandolin solo on one of the... That would be
we'll do
really
it back
nice.
to back style with Tiny and Jethro. You know?
Yeah, that would be really cool. And
I think so.
Because I've been, well, sorry, we have to wrap this up. But I've been trying to find some people to play jazz with, but without success here. So I realized, well, I have to stick with my MIDI bass and my virtual online friends. But that I can still be around this music.
That's what we do, and it's great. I love that that setup.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hayes, anyone have a favorite app they use for practice? We got 2 minutes to wrap this.
There were some interesting ones that I did see that you and I haven't talked about before, because this is one that pops up regularly, you know, in our show and in the community. Yeah. One that I really loved that isn't so much like an app that you download on your phone, but if you use the Google Chrome web browser, there's an extension that one of my students, that one of the students in the community sent called Transpose. And what this does, it's essentially just like, because you use Capo and I use the Transpose with an exclamation point, you know, that app. It does that all natively in your web browser. So you can adjust the pitch of YouTube videos. You can slow them down, speed them up. You can do all of these things just like in the browser. You don't even have to download the files to your computer.
Wow.
So
what was the name of it? Transpose?
Transpose. Yeah. So if you're interested in that one, just look it up in the Google Chrome extension store. That's where you can find that one. Another one that yeah, oh man. And I think it's just, we're getting to that point, right, where we don't even need to download the media anymore. These apps are like doing a great job of just keeping it, you know, easy for us. Like they're meeting us where we are, right? Because everyone's using YouTube. So just do it that way. Another one that I saw that was really cool, and this is, you know, you and me are music theory nerds, so you might like this one. I think it's called Tonally, or maybe Tone Ally. It's Tonally. And it's a little practice app for music theory. So what it does is it's got like a little circle of fifths, but it'll highlight 7 kind of key centers at a time and show you how they relate to a key via the chords, you know? So you can kind of use it for composition or to practice like your scale and chord knowledge. It's a really beautiful user interface. So if you're looking to get better at music theory out there and understand chord relationships and those types of things, Tonally or Tone Ally would be a good one to check out.
Yeah, this is new for me also. Interesting.
Yeah, this is what I think we need to check in on the apps every now and again, right? Because there's so many new ones popping up this way.
Yeah.
And I'll say this because I say it every time too. Strum Machine. If you don't use Strum Machine out there and you play bluegrass and swing music, Luke has done a great job of programming new sounds in there and stuff like that. So I think that's the last one that people were saying.
Yes, that's also one that I'm using regularly. Great app.
Yeah,
highly recommend it.
Absolutely.
Oh boy, this has been an interesting episode. I had to return to 1998 to.
It's awesome, man. I think we need to go back to 1998 more often. It sounds like there was some pretty cool stuff happening in your life back then.
Yeah,
that's fun.
That's fun. Okay. thank you so much, Hayes. It's been really nice hanging out with you here today. And thanks to anyone for listening to the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, before we get out of here, don't forget to head to mandolinsecrets.com/podcast to keep up with the show. And we'll have links for a lot of the things that we talked about here today, too, in the episode description.
Perfect. So I'm ending this one in the same way that I'm doing the others. Always remember, be a music maker.